Okay, awesome. So my name is Gina Grain, and I'm super stoked to be talking with you guys today about strength and conditioning for triathlons, Ironmans, and all three sports. Um, just a little bit of my history here. Oh, I'm just trying to get this little box off. There we go. A little bit of my history here. I'm a Canadian Olympian on the track. I was competed at Beijing just going a long time ago now. Beijing 2008 for Canada. I was a professional road cyclist for about 12 years or so as well. And before that, I was a mountain bike racer. And as Tim and I were just talking about, before that, I actually first dabbled in any kind of bike racing in triathlons up in Kelowna, the Little Apple and the Mountain to Sea race. Anyways, since my career in cycling, I went on to start tag cycling here in Vancouver. If you guys are from Vancouver, the tag stands for Tomlinson and Grain. So that kind of created the transition between professional sport and helping people learn how to ride a bike here in Vancouver. And then tag came about. And tag is still going strong right now. I'm not part of the business anymore. I left the business part of it to actually focus more on strength and conditioning and taking my master's in exercise science at the time. So since then, with my master's, I have worked with Canada Soccer and the Whitecaps girls program, and numerous athletes around the world, really going to some Olympic games with some athletes and supporting their journey through the strength and conditioning world. This is an old picture of my son. My son is now 8. So I just didn't get a chance to update the photo, but I am a mom, and my son Tanner is 8 years old, and it's the best job ever being a mom. Second, how come this isn't working? There we go. No, there we go. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get into the juicy. I am very passionate about strength and conditioning for endurance athletes because not only because I've trained many of us, but I've also trained myself in it as well. So we're going to go through all of these points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the beach bod point. We're going to go through it in succession, and I have answered some of your questions already within the PowerPoint, and then we can answer some of those questions again, or other questions at the end. So the first one, why strength train for triathletes? Strength and plyometric improves cycling and running economy. In other words, you get faster without increasing VO2. So I'll move on from that. So strength training has been proven, and I studied this in my master's as well. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time going over the science of it because you can research it on Google all you want. But I'm going to bring up a couple key points. The key to strength training for endurance athletes is that we see people biking longer and running faster without an increase in VO2 max, meaning their aerobic fitness hasn't improved at all, but something else has caused them to be faster and bike farther. And these studies proved that strength training will in fact do that. The studies that I'm referring to are improvements in 40-kilometer time trial relating to cycling economy and cycling efficiency, time to exhaustion at MAP with no increase in body mass. And I'll talk later on with that about the beach bod, and I have seen and proven that people do not gain muscle mass from the strength programs that are properly created for endurance athletes. Let's go to running. This is one of many running studies. So the most common strategies used to improve running economy, besides of course running training itself, are resistance training, plyometric training, and explosive resistance training. Again, proven in many. You can Google that on your own. So hold on a second, I just need to move something. Strength training for endurance athletes. The way I'm going to just talk a little bit of the way I approach it. I've been doing this for years, and it's really neat to see people over years as well, so I can follow them and see their progressions. I have periodized. We periodize in sport, but periodize for triathletes and Ironman athletes and 70.3s is very different. Oftentimes athletes have events throughout the year. So to follow a common periodization scheme doesn't usually work. But for the most part, when people come to see me for a strength training program, we divide it loosely. I'm going to say loosely because it changes per person into about 3 phases. Okay. The off season, phase 1, approximately October, November. The first thing I focus on is what I personally call cleaning out the cobwebs. Okay. After a season of training and racing, we've been in the same position for lengthy periods of time. So we all have imbalances and tightnesses that we need to kind of iron out because we've been doing what we love. A long time ago, when I used to bike race, strength training wasn't as much of a thing as it is now. And I remember specifically one of my teammates always referred to it as the puppy belly. The puppy belly, because we didn't really go and do a lot of core and stuff. You know, we kind of go for our bike rides and go back and relax. But over the course of the summer, you get that little, not fat, but just like a little puppy belly, because our core was not as strong as it should be to kind of hold us together. So anyways, long story short, first thing we do is look at the cobwebs, work on mobility, stability, core, and a firm assessment of the person, working on imbalances and weaknesses. The second thing we do in the first phase is working on your capacity for work in the gym. Okay, so working on your body's ability to handle load and your body's ability to have more endurance in the gym. Okay, doing numerous exercises. The second phase, we're going on to off-season phase 1, approximately December, January. We start to strength build, working in the mid-rep range. We'll talk a little bit about that later. And we work on power technique and power. And this is for, given that our body's able to work on power, we work on it, you know, barring injuries, et cetera, and the person. The third phase being approximately preseason, February, March, working a little bit more on strength, the lower rep ranges and plyometrics if suited to that person. Okay. Again, this is in general terms. We're looking at heavy weight, low volume, and 2 times per week, 1 week per week in season. That's a big overview. Okay, I'm going to get into it a little bit more now. Of how it works. Okay, I don't want to dive too deep into the science of it, but the long and the short of it is that strength training increases force and muscle balance. Okay, it improves your robustness and aids robustness, meaning resiliency to training in general. Okay, not just resiliency to training in the gym, but your body's capabilities to handle hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of swimming, biking, and running, because the nature of triathlon and Ironman training is a lot of training, right? So it improves our robustness and our resiliency. And as we just saw, it improves running economy. I'll talk on that a little bit more. Getting into a little bit more science about it, but it can basically, the act of strength training converts the more oxidative and fatigue resistant type A fibers. Sorry, it converts it to resistant type A fibers. So that's getting a little bit more into the sports science of it. The big one I'm going to talk about is the next one is adaptations to your eccentric force utilization. It's a big mouthful there, to improve running economy. So basically, the eccentric force utilization is your body's ability to, for example, when you're running, when you hit the ground, you don't lose energy into the ground, but rather you use that stored energy to bounce you forward, if that makes a little bit of sense. So I'll talk a little bit about that later, but that EUR is a very important component to improving your running economy. This says it more, what I just said, more in a chart format. The strength training talks about improved neural function. That arrow going down to RFD is very important for the eccentric utilization ratio. That's referred to as force development, basically. And then we go on to economy of movement, meaning being more efficient. All right. And then we talk about some other things there with capillary. Basically, you improve your body's ability to handle endurance performance. So moving along, skimming over that deep sports science talk, the cool thing about all this that happens is that it works with the elite. And a lot of the studies out there look at more beginners and or kind of age group categories. And the reason why is because the elite have their, when we're training elites, and when we are elite, we have your training schedule that you don't really want to mess up for a science project. Okay, so it's very hard to find elite athletes to do any kind of a study, but there are numerous studies out there, and you can kind of read through this. I'm not going to go over it, but these athletes are running, their VO2 max is 71.1, and they're running like an 8.5 minute 3 kilometers. So they're pretty quick, right? So the strength training works with even elite athletes who have the smallest gains to make to be better, right? When we're a beginner, we can almost do anything to get better. But the elites, as we know, to get even 1% better is really, really important, important gains. So the second thing I wanted to talk about, the first thing was how strength affects improvements in running economy and cycling, but also plyometrics. Okay. Again, not going to go over this entire, you guys can look it up if you like, but a combination of heavy weight training and endurance training also leads to improved running performance and enhanced running economy in well-trained athletes. So short-term plyometric training, short-term plyometric training, improving running economy, also plyometric training helps with injury prevention, which I've also seen in myself. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. You guys can skim through that if you like later. Again, cool thing about this, plyometrics improved running economy in elite distance runners. And I love this because, again, looking at beginners, and we can give them something and they'll probably improve. But when you talk about improving elite athletes, then something's right. Something is definitely going on here, that if we are able to improve somebody who has a 71 VO2, if we're able to improve their running with perhaps 30 minutes 2 times a week in the gym, and improve decrease their chances for injury, improve their resiliency, I think that's a win. But let's keep on going here. Elite distance runners improved running economy through enhanced muscular power and that EUR that I talked about, and elastic energy return, or EUR. The elastic energy return, I'm going to dive one more step into that. If you think of a trampoline, okay, and trampoline springs, you have like an efficient zone of those springs, okay? If those springs are too tight, you're not going to bounce very high or very well. If those springs are too squishy, you're just gonna right into the trampoline, and you're not going to get very high, right? We've all been on all those well, maybe not all, but I've certainly experienced all the kind of trampolines. So it's the same with our body. Our tendons and muscles, which are attached to each other, they work in a spring-like fashion. Okay, so, and I'm going to show you some examples very, very soon on maybe, let's call it a really loose spring. I don't really have a tight spring example, but how we can get our body with loose springs where we kind of like sink into the ground and we don't have that bounciness and that efficiency of getting off the ground, and how strength training and a plyometrics training program can help with that. And it's pretty cool to see these results. So again, running economy improved without an increase in VO2 max, which again proves that they didn't increase their aerobic fitness, but what made them go faster was the strength and plyometric conditioning. Here is for you. Here's, you guys can take it and fly away with it if you're ready to do a plyometric training program. This is the program that was in one of the studies I'm referring to. It's a pretty general program, but this is the program they followed, and this is public information, but please, if you do this, please be very careful, and or reach out to me so I can give you a little bit of help with that. I have used this plyometric training program, and I actually have it up on my, I don't think it's accessible by everybody to my YouTube channel, but I have used this program. I used a little bit different strength exercises, but I did use the plyometrics. Here it is. Here's the result. Here's a result. Okay, so this person, so this is testing that I do with pretty much everybody that comes in to see me. I have a sports science app that I test. I do a battery of tests when you come in to see me, to see where you're at, and an assessment. But this particular app measures power. Okay, it actually measures jump height, power, and then from that I extrapolate your EUR, or that bounciness. Or I'm going to Oh, yeah, it's here, EUR down here, and muscle tendon stiffness. So let's go over this just for a sec, because you're going to see a couple of these. This person, I didn't even give them a strength program. This was purely plyometrics, okay? So they came in with a CMJ is counter movement jump. I don't know if you can see my pointer here. The counter movement jump came in this is actually height, and this is wattage. Okay, so let's look at their wattage for fun. So this is instantaneous wattage, right? This isn't wattage that you're going to be pushing on the bike for 10 minutes, obviously. Okay, so they came in with a CMJ is a bouncy type power test. You kind of come down and jump up really quick, which is more the one that you use for running. Okay, it's a bouncy test. Whereas a SJ, which is called a squat jump, is where you come into a squat position. And then, you know what, just let me demonstrate for a second. Okay, here we go. Okay, so if you can see me here, like I'm a little bit dark, but a counter movement, okay, good thumbs up. A counter movement jump is where you come up, down, and jump up. See that jump height? Woo, massive. Okay, that's a CMG or counter movement jump. A squat jump is if you come down, pause, 1, 2, and then generate that force from a squat position. The difference is that when you're doing the CMJ, it's more like you're running. Whereas the squat jump is more like the power you produce on the bike. Okay, when you're seated in the saddle and you're required to push that power from a seated position instantaneously without using what's called the stretch shortening cycle, where that bouncy effect is going on. That's, again, a little bit sports sciencey, but that's what we're talking about. For runners, we want to see an improvement in CMJ. Okay, so this person improved by 14%, and this was a, let me just get rid of this for a second. This was a March 15th to April 9th. So it's 4 weeks. Okay, so 4 weeks in this program. The squat jump, he also improved by 2%, but the squat jump is improved mainly by strength training and non-plyometric type activities. So I've seen improvements in the squat jump through I've seen improvements through the squat jump through a strength training program, and also a power-based program. Now, the small differences of that is if you were to do a box hop, okay, that's a power generating exercise, not a plyometric. Okay, a plyometric is when you're using that bounciness, whereas a box hop is using power. Okay, that's a little bit more detailed there, but that's a little bit of the difference. So this person improved in for their counter movement jump by 14%, giving them an EUR, what we talked about, that bounciness, effectiveness, improvement by 12%. Okay, so that 12% is within 4 weeks of doing a plyometric program 2 times a week. Pretty cool. And these are all people that I've trained. Here's another little example here, a bit small, sorry for this, but this is a leg strength and asymmetry improvement. Okay, so it was a strength focus, not necessarily a power focus. I want to draw attention to their leg strength endurance. So you see here between right and left, there's a massive discrepancy and major limb asymmetry difference. This is where you do a single leg squat for 1 minute, as many reps as you can. Okay, and this person could do only 12 with their left and 22 with their right. What do we got testing week? We got February 12th and April. So February, March, April, 8-week program, and they improved by 116.7%. Okay, so these are true testing data. So, and you can see that they're basically not asymmetric anymore. And again, even though it wasn't necessarily a plyometric program, they improved their EUR by 2.5% and their power parameters. So pretty fun stuff. Here's one more here. I think one more. Where we're looking at here. So here we are at September, October, November, 8-week program. They improved their strength endurance by 21% and improved their EUR by 6%. So again, EUR, that equates to running economy, because that's that rate of force development, RFD, and that's going to make you more efficient popping yourself off the ground. Oh, my cheeks are getting rosy and getting hot. That must have been my 2 jumps that I just did. Okay, I don't even know what shirt I have on. There we go, the Washboard Union. That's my brother's band. Okay, so let's move along here. So check. What we just went over was were the why strength train for triathletes, because it improves cycling and running economy. All right, let's move along to mobility. So I always include mobility work in my programs. I kind of fold it in within the program so that you don't rest, you work on mobility within the rest. Okay. Mobility. Thanks, Gina. Oh, this is a quote from one of my clients that actually does my Tuesday morning group, which I'll talk about in a second. Mobility. Thanks, Gina. Love, love, love the workouts. The mobility stuff is great. I've started doing the warm-up mobility run before my runs, and it really helps get this old bod going. So the stuff that I provide you with in your program, some people use it as an activation and or a warm-up for the runs, which again is specific for them, and it helps them get going. So this is, and Tim, thank you again for sending those questions out, because it helped guide me a little bit with the presentation. This is a question that one of you guys asked me, was how often should I use a foam roller, and should it be before or after a workout? My answer to that is all this. Okay, I'm not going to go over it because you guys are going to get this presentation. Okay, so I'm not going over this, but we all know that mobility worsens with repetitive movements, inactivity, lack of recovery, high levels of stress, and injury, which is all in there. That's kind of like, I'm sure you know it, and if you don't now, you do. So you can read through this, but what I want to get to is to answer your question. There are many types and ways you foam roll. Okay, and you can read about that here as a reference to yourself. Before a strength training program, and or before your runs, bikes, and swims, the method that is most frequently used and what I recommend is the quick roll. Okay, so several smooth and quick rolls of pressure over a targeted area, which increases neuromuscular activity in the area and consequently improving blood flow. That's why you do it. I don't know about the flexibility part. That's controversial, okay? But this is why we do it. And I am going to put a disclaimer in here. There is some controversy about the foam roller, but depending on what studies you read. But at the end of the day, I like to foam roll and have my athletes foam roll before their workouts, their strength workouts, because not only is it increasing blood flow to the area, but you're actually also warming up your shoulders because you're supporting yourself on the foam roller. You're warming up your core and a lot of other reasons for that. So you guys can read through that as a resource, all right? There's two more, oscillating and rotating. Here's another question that was asked. Do you prefer hip strengthening over hip mobility? Both, because hip mobility requires strength. What people often forget is that, I'm going to go back a couple slides. Mobility is not just foam rolling. It's not just flexibility. It's a combination between flexibility, joint health, strength, and what's called motor control, the way your brain is controlling that joint and the muscles. I'm going to give a small example. If you don't have the strength to bring your arm up, you don't have mobility. Okay, now that's a very basic example, but you need some kind of strength to work through a range of motion. And we're going to get into, I'll show you an example, I think, later on. So both for that question. Oh, here's my example. Okay. Oh, yeah, right. So let's see if this works without launching too many ads. There we go. Okay, so this is an example of hip mobility. Mobility. Can you guys see that? Okay, great. So we're getting into 1, 2, 3. Watch my foot going up and down there. So a little bit of hip mobility, a little bit of a flexibility drill, a little bit of glute strengthening exercise, and then you lift that back foot and working yourself into hip internal rotation. So that is an example of working all those components that I just talked about mobility, except for foam rolling. And yeah, oops, it's not right. Sorry, guys. Okay. So moving on to 3, tissue load capacity and resiliency. As I talked a little bit about earlier, the biggest thing about triathletes and Ironman athletes is to get to the finish line injury-free. All right. You guys can read through this as well. I'm not going to totally go into it, but with tissue load capacity and resiliency, the key is finding the balance. All right. And if you look at the top person here on this teeter-totter, all right, finding the balance, strength, control, flexibility, tissue sensitivity, everything we've talked about today needs to be balanced with training volume, intensity, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, we need to find that balance, because if you just do one all the time, you may be okay for a short period of time or a long period of time, but it may catch up to you, and it may not, depending on the person, okay? So a properly designed strength program is a big part in finding the balance, all right? As we've talked about, strength training improves tissue load capacity and resiliency, balances, which we've seen, balances your strength, leading to better biomechanics. All right, and it helps to improve mobility. This is a quote from one of the athletes I work with. I asked her for a quote for this presentation, and she said, "Now going into our 50s, we have both experienced less injuries since we began," quote with Gina, "a consistent strength training plan. Just getting to that start line in order to race is one of the biggest hurdles for a triathlete." And yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. So I want to show you a pretty good example of muscle balance and muscle recruitment. Can you guys see the small letters down here? This is an athlete that I work with, okay? She came in to see me in December, this last December, and she was having back issues, okay? And we did a number of things, but one of the tests we did was called the hamstring dominant glute hip lift. And with her, I didn't have, sorry, it's off the screen. I think it was her right leg. She couldn't do one glute hip lift without her back wanting to cramp. Okay, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the glute hip lift exercise, but if you are more back dominant, your back is going to do that extension versus using your glutes, and your glutes are a major driver of running, cycling, etc. So she came in 0, and her other leg can do 30, and that's kind of a baseline of what I want to see with people with this particular exercise. And so we had to fix that. The way we did it, and I was this. And I'm so passionate about this. This is the program that I made, and she followed this program for 6 weeks, very religiously, 2 times a week. And in fact, if you are sitting there thinking that you might have some of these same issues, I would be more than happy if you want to reach out to me. I'll give you this program. Okay, I'll give you this program to those who attended this event, and I have videos for all of it because you probably can't understand a lot of the things in here. And the key to this program is doing it properly with the proper cueing. A lot of it comes from me and some of my YouTube stuff, but when you have glutes that aren't firing and back that's over firing, it is a very crucial that you get. There's a system that I use to train your glutes, and it works because I have proof. So this is her. I didn't put the post. Anyways, I didn't put the post. Okay. Anyways, we retested her, and now she's at 30-30. Okay, we just retested her actually last week, and she's at 30-30. But here's another example. RM, I kept the names out of it. He came in with a 13 single leg squat on the left, 23 on the right. I put him on that exact same program that you just saw, and we had a 69% improvement of leg strength on his left. And you can see that actually the program went from October to December, and then we went on another program. So he inched his way up to being more equal with his leg imbalances, which is really cool, just with that program that I showed you. Here, what do we got here? Here's one more example here. Strength focus, not power stroke focus. So we got single leg strength, 12 and 22. And we ironed that out to 26-30. So 116, maybe I showed this screen already, 116% improvement. Okay. So just showing you that it works. It works. Here's a really neat one. This is an athlete that I trained. She had back pain, and I did a running analysis with her, which I do. And you can see that there is something going on with her hips. I won't go on to the whys, but you can see that as she loads through her left leg here, her hip drops. Okay, her right leg here, there's no hip drop. Okay, so there's something going on there. After the program that we put her on, can you guys see that? Okay, after the program we put her on, this is what was it, 8 weeks later, I believe, 8 weeks after. So June, no, not more than that. That took longer. June, July, February. That took from June to March. Okay, but look at her now, and no back pain. So the issue is back pain, limited running tolerance. What we did, a gait analysis, corrective exercises, strength program, and some small technique changes with her. But what we did with her was really successful. I've added strength training to my 70.3 program with huge benefits. It's improved my strength, muscle balances, and form in the swim, bike, and run, especially at the end of a workout or a race when I'm fatigued. Most important, as an athlete over 60, I have not had any injuries, and I attribute that to strength, mobility, balance, and plyometrics in my strength program. for me, these are the training sessions I never miss. This is a woman I train in Canada, and she sent me that for this presentation as well. So moving along. Okay, good. We're getting there. This is coming into muscle areas. There we go. Let's get rid of that. Muscle. This is a question that one of you guys asked me. Muscle areas that you find triathletes have the most trouble training and maintaining. And you know what I'm going to say is the glutes. Okay, from sitting, either sitting back injury history, tight back, weak core, tight hamstrings, overactive hip flexors. Are some of you guys nodding your heads to this? Right? So we see that, we see it, we hear it, we talk about it on the bike, we talk about it, but it's a thing. It's called the lower cross syndrome. Okay, it describes a pattern of tight and weak or inactive muscles in the core of the body. It's an actual thing, and I see it all the time. Basically, I'll talk a little bit of talk here. The extensor muscles and the hip flexors, okay, those are all of them right there, are chronically tight. Who's nodding their head? The muscles that do the opposing actions, the abs and the glutes, are inactive. And I think this where I got this, they're not inactive. I like to call it gluteal amnesia. Okay, they forget to work, because their other muscles go, hey man, I'll do the work for you. Let my hamstrings do it. Let my back do it. Glutes, go on vacation. And that's what happens. And you've seen it with some of my programs that I've showed you. And again, is the birth of the glutes and posture training camp. Okay. Now, yeah, that's all I got to say to that. Okay. Here's another question that was asked me. Strength or exercise suggestions or routine to recover from chronic Achilles tendon injuries. This is a big topic on itself, okay? But my answer is isometrics, isometrics, isometrics. If you're not familiar with isometrics, please look it up and or go to this podcast. It's a great podcast explaining the whys and the hows to do isometric training. But in a long story short, isometric training is push. Basically, if you push your hands into the wall as hard as you can, that's an isometric. Okay, and what it does, he gives you the guidelines. There's different guidelines, but 20 to 30 seconds. But you can listen to the podcast or ask me later. It basically, when you're pushing hard against something, your healthy tissues say, I'm going to do all the work, and your tissues that aren't healthy and recovering and or still recovering, they say, I'm going to be on vacation. But the isometrics fatigues the healthy fibers, and they have no choice but to go to the less healthy fibers to help them realign properly and work. Okay, so that's a short one, but I even provided the link there. It's hyperlinked, that you can just pop on there to look at it. Oh, coming to my favorite question. Looking for research-based guidance on for weight-bearing exercises for arthritic knees. An athletic person who is active but wants to keep knees from seizing. I don't know if any of you guys saw this this article in the New York Times, Why Running Won't Ruin Your Knees. This article came out about a year or 6 months after I took this running injuries course. And in this running injuries course, we dove deep into knees and why running doesn't ruin your knees. And I bet you some people are shaking their head. But there are different thoughts about this, but the results suggest that cartilage is malleable. It must be able to sense the strains and slight damage from running, and it can rebuild itself, become stronger. And in this case, running bolsters cartilage health. Listen, these are some slides from the course that I took. You guys can read through this. But I want to draw your attention to strengthen where needed, especially the quads, glutes, and hamstrings. All right, and these other gait retraining, if indicated, I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. Big slide here, but you guys can look at this. This is a big study that was done on marathon. Marathon running, and I want to just come over here to patellar cartilage changes were asymptomatic, and there were no significant changes to what's called the KOOS, the knee injury and osteoarthritis outcomes score, which is that. I have that on my computer. I've used it quite a few times with some people recovering from knee injury, but I want to bring you to me. Not that this is all about me, okay? So this is me before my 70.3. This is me after, and this is me kind of a few hours later. So I did a 70.3, how do I go back here? 70.3 2 years ago. And I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis in my knees at about, I think it was 18. Okay. I've had about 7 knee surgeries, both ACLs. I have no cartilage in one of my knees and maybe, I don't know, something in the other. Anyways, my knees hurt. Okay. And I got into cycling because of my knees. And I'm not gonna make this a long story, but my story is that when my son was born, I wanted to be able to run with him, and I didn't run at all. Last time I ran was like the little apple when I was like 10 years old. I did soccer and stuff, but anyways, long story short, my knees hurt. But I was determined to be able to run with my son if he wanted to run. So long story short, I developed this glutes and posture training camp, and I trained my glutes. I trained my running technique, and I went from running 3K, then okay, I'm going to run 5K. And then I got up to the 10K level, and then my friends were trying to convince me to do this 70.3. And my goal was to be able to train and do this event without making my knees worse. And throughout my training, with following my programs and my running technique, my knees never felt better. And I completed this, and I was absolutely fine. And I'm still running and still enjoying the sport. So it works. And if you have osteoarthritic knees, there is a certain way that you need to be able to train your body to load your muscles and not your joints. Because if I load my joints, and I can, and my body will tell me because it hurts, if I don't load properly through my glutes and my muscles, they hurt. And so it's a training process. So if you have questions, more questions, I'm very passionate about that. If you have questions, reach out to me, please. Question: should I be lifting for endurance? My box here. Should I be lifting heavy for endurance sport strength training? How often should I be strength training, and how to schedule it around cardio sessions? Big question, but my one answer for that is be fresh for your specific cardio training sessions and do strength afterwards. I'm going to say generally, okay? Here is why do I have an example here? Strength and power 2 times per week. What do we got? This is a 48-year-old fit male. All right. So again, talking about those elite versus the beginners. This is a fit male who saw September, October, November, an 8-week program, 21% improvements in his leg strength endurance, and a whopping 30% for the counter movement jump, relating to a 6% improvement in EUR. That's talking about running economy. All right. So answer 2. For what should I be doing? Heavy strength training? Yes. Answer 2 is heavyweight training plus what I call an integrated workout, 1 time per week. And I'm going to talk about my Train with Grain Tuesdays, because my Train with Grain Tuesdays is a Zoom class that I've been running for years at 6:30 on Tuesday mornings, is an integrated workout using not heavy weights. I have another question about that from somebody, but these are a couple of quotes of people who have been doing the Train with Grain sessions. I felt absolutely magnificent on my 7-day backcountry skiing adventure. I felt stronger with every passing day. Why? I think some dedication to having a solid core and strong hips because of you made all the difference. I was able to do a 500-mile bikepacking trip in Scotland this August. Lots of steep climbs, but with strong training you give me translates great to on the bike. This is the question you ask. Somebody out here asked me, not a big fan of going to the gym. Can you suggest resources, plans for conditioning at home using your own body weight, dumbbells, or varied basic home equipment? This is why I'm talking about Train with Grain, because I don't have any more than 2 10-pound weights on the Train with Grain, and most people don't have heavy weights. But the challenge that I presented to myself was to try to get a scientific and experienced program that is effective to do at home without having all the weights at the gym. And it's been successful. From you can see your class is the most important thing I do all week for overall health, and that came from Canadian Masters National Cyclocross champion. This is one of the exercises that I know I'm getting a little bit short on time here, Tim. I'm almost done. This is what I talk about in integrated exercise. Okay, using lightweight but strengthening. Again, integrated strength. I'm going to stop talking here for a second. Oh yeah, I don't talk here. But this is an example of exercises you can do at home. Lightweight, super good exercise for running and cycling, integrating core, and also a postural exercise. This one here, you guys are more than welcome to use these exercises. But of course, a proper program is properly designed in order. But this is a Okay. I knew this was going to happen.
It's custom hair care made for the late
that's okay.
readers.
You guys can look at that one on your own, but it's a band exercise. Please click on the link. It's a great one for glute activation before your runs, and it also gives you a calf strengthening exercise there as well. So overall, again, just reviewing, when people come into me, we do an assessment, we do a bit of a movement analysis, we look at mobility, muscle firing sequence. I go through a battery of tests, standardized for runners and other athletes, effective loading patterns with fundamental movements, aka are you doing the exercises correctly, using the right muscles. I kept that in there. That was the story of the glutes with that person who couldn't do any, and then they came in 6 weeks later and did 30. So all that stuff we go over. We do strength and power testing and running gait analysis if needed. Then I go away and the art and science of exercise selection and the sequence of exercise begins, okay? And that's broken down into prehab, rehab. We always have a section prehab, rehab, and activation exercises, plyometrics and or power, and then strength exercises, aka integrated strength exercises like you just saw, and max strength exercises. So kind of in a nutshell, that's how the progression, and that's how I personally design personal programs for people and or for teams, all right? How many strength sessions per week and length of each session would you recommend for a long distance triathlete? This is a question from you, juggling a full-time job and 15 to 20 hours a week of disciplined specific work. You're a good question. Exercise gives you energy, but you know what? Exercise gives you energy, but you need energy to exercise. Sounds like a pyramid scheme to me. How was that? Okay, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this to training makes you faster, but you need to be healthy and resilient to train. Training makes you faster, but you need to be healthy and resilient to train. All right. We need to get to the finish line healthy, everybody, right? That's the number one thing. You're not going to be able to race or compete if you're not there healthy. And because triathletes and Ironman, we put such demand on our body, including work and kids and life, etc. Healthy to the finish line. Healthy to the finish line. Strength program. If I'm important to you, show me. Better yet, prioritize me. And endurance ride, long rides, long runs. You won't miss me. Oh, okay. The reason I put this in there because you know what? So I'm going to talk about how am I going to say this? Not everybody on this that's listening to this is going to be my age, knocking on 50's door, but the knocking on 15 doors, you know, we have a lot of miles under our legs, a lot of miles. And if you're an endurance sport, you probably still have a lot of miles. Your legs probably won't miss 30 minutes. Okay, the 30 minutes that you put into making your body more resilient, stronger, and et cetera, like I just talked about, that 30 minutes you probably won't miss on the bike, maybe the run, depending on where you're at. But the point is, you might not be missed. But what you will miss is that race if you get to the finish line and or the start line and you're broken. Okay, so take out 30 minutes 2 times a week of maybe one of your endurance sessions and substitute it for strength and resiliency training, and your body's going to be happy with you. Final thing here, going into our 50s. I already did that quote. Okay, anyways, this is a little example here of an advanced Ironman gym training session. This is an advanced program from one of the authors. You might recognize him. He's okay with this on here. So here we got our plyometrics. Of course, we've done a warm up and everything before this. Okay, so plyometrics here. Heavy strength training, improving running autonomy, and integrated exercise. Another form of plyometrics that he was doing. Mobility. Heavy strength training. Okay, so those are just a very small example of a I'm going to call it quite advanced program. He's worked really hard to get to that stage and been really successful. Okay, that's coming to a wrap, you guys. If you, we'll go on to the question and answers, but if you want a little bit more information about this, here's some podcasts that I've recently-ish been on. The Greg Bennett Show, I've put a link to that as well. And also Feisty Women's Performance Podcast. I did a strength talk with them as well. You guys can check out those on your next bike or run. Or swim if you have those special ear pods. Here's my YouTube channel if you've not seen it. There are how many? I got to get to the 600 video mark. I'm 3 behind. I'll get to that right away. And subscribe. I have 279 subscribers, but if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, that's where it's at. And oops, my YouTube channel. And why is that doing that? Sorry, guys, because it always happens there. Oh, right. I almost forgot. No Arnold bod for you. All games. Guys, you're not going to look like this. Okay. With everybody I've trained, I won't say everybody because some people have admitted that when they did gain weight, it was over Christmas. You will not look like that. You will not gain muscle mass by doing a specific strength program 2 times a week. I have not seen it. I have a body composition analysis machine that I've used for years, testing people and retesting them because I wanted proof for myself. And the proof is in the program is that you will not gain muscle mass, but you'll do nothing but get to that start line fresh and resilient. So I think that concludes it. Oh, that's at my website, Train with Grain, trainwithgrain.com. Oh, that's the glory days. Hey, Tim, me winning Gastown. Seems like a lifetime ago.